A question from Alif Naif. My opinion, Datuk Sri, the government should always empower civil society in combating poverty. The impersonal relationship between certain government and the common rakyat creates a certain tension while combating poverty and implementing policy. Would love to hear your thoughts on civil societies and policy.
I'm a great proponent of civil society. In fact, when I wrote the Renaissance, I talk about Madani, Al-Mujtama Al-Madani, Madani society, not limited to civil societies. Our understanding of civil society with strong ethical values, with commitment, with compassion. And it's important because the whole Islamic tradition, it is civil society and the Waqf, which is essentially civil society. All these associations of Waqf that built universities and hospitals under Waqf. And even in the West, if you read one of the popular literature that I encourage, Democracy in America, Alexis de Tocqueville, he talks about intermediate associations, which those days, of course, there's no terminology about civil society as such, but intermediate associations. One is the government, the other is the people. Okay, but there's intermediate associations that could interact and understand, empathize with the people, but at the same time can then relate and influence, or at least present the case to the authorities or the government. So the role of the student bodies, NGOs, civil societies, Waqf, mosque committees, you don't limit, or PIBGs. These are, to me, essential in any vibrant democracy. Of a government that is autocratic, that's scared of the aspirations of the people, would certainly do everything possible to discourage this. A fair democratic government would certainly encourage this because it would help and immensely the whole exercise of getting people's views into account and therefore being able to pressurize or influence the direction of society. Otherwise, without these intermediate associations or Madani, Masyarakat Madani, Mujtama Madani, then you will not have this advantage of government having to listen and the civil society having to empathize. Again, I reiterate the point that in Muslim societies of the past, the civil society, Madani or Waqf institutions made these enormous contributions. Fazlur Rahman, in his one of his works, Islam and Modernity, if I'm not mistaken, mentioned Indonesia as an example. The hundreds of institutions, universities, a few hospitals, of course, but mainly schools and universities by this Nahdlatul Ulama and Muhammadiyah, to the extent that they can really mobilize the support of the poor to build these institutions. I'm not saying that here we should all do that. We can do that, but there are areas where the government have the capacity. They started because under the Dutch there was nothing done, and initial decades after independence in Indonesia, the economic policy was severely flawed. So the role of civil institutions, civil society is more relevant, more pressing as compared to the present. But I would certainly end by encouraging students to use this opportunity. IIU remains a great academic institution. I'm a bit biased. I remember when I was Minister of Education, Minister of Finance, some of the other vice chancellors were very critical. He says, Anwar, just only look at the university, Islamic University. It's not true, because I take care of all universities. But I have great hopes that this institution will produce not only quality scholarship, but also students with great empathy. Because rarely do you find students having understanding about Africa and Middle East, and because they are there, students, more so in the past, less so now, but still you have students and because by nature you have friends from these countries, your understanding, just like traveling to these countries. So thank you very much again for this opportunity. And Zul, Zikifli, thank you for your patience. I hope you don't get too many questions from authorities. It's not your fault, it's my fault, because I'm supposed to speak on Renaissance and the Renaissance man, but then I have to also venture into some other questions which I think relevant to the articulation and the works of our almarhum Ungku Aziz. Terima kasih banyak.
Thank you so much, Datuk Sri. I hope everyone who are with us tonight benefit from this discussion. Like Datuk Sri mentioned, I think the first thing that we should do now is equip ourselves with knowledge, and with what we already have, inshallah, contribute as much as we can at our capacity. Unfortunately, we have to end this discussion now. I will gladly give one last pantun before we turn off. Bunga dedap di atas para, ada anak susun pasang pelita. Kalau tersilap tutur bicara, jemari disusun, maaf dipinta. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a very good night. Datuk Sri, once again, thank you so much. We hope that we have more discussion after this.